Hello and welcome to my Savinkov Russia Let's Play. A little while ago I did a Russian military junta one that kind of ended up becoming Restoring the Russian Empire. But someone requested that I come back here, and the new update kind of broke my Serbian game, so I decided, you know what, this is the perfect time to do it. So I already got my armies organized between Western Front and Eastern Front and already put into armies. So we're going to go into research. We're going to start off with a very basic economy one. Before I go any further, I want to talk about my general strategy. Because we're doing Savinkov, I think that's how it's pronounced, we have to go a firm hand, and we have to go for the New Russia, which gets us stuff like a bunch of free manpower, which is good, organization rate, recovery rate, planning speed. Then we also get here that helps us with basically resistance. Then we get state revanchism, which is division recovery rate, plus attack bonuses against Germany and Japan. All pretty good stuff. But the most important thing that kind of changes how you play is we have to establish the VES. And what this does is, there's some cool stuff in here, but we lower our recruitable population factor with most of these. -5 there, -5 there, -5 there, and another -5 there. So it's overall it's a -20% recruitable population factor, but we do get some free factories and stuff, and we also get a minus production cost of armor, plus a bunch of free skill. So that pretty much gives us our play style. We are going to be doing Spearhead Doctrine. Think also for Navy modernization, we're going to do War Under the Sea, because I don't think we have enough time to focus on building a big Navy. And our Air Force, there's an Air Force tree here. Yeah, we're going to go for air superiority. We're just going to build up some fighters, and hopefully that's enough to deal with the Germans. So with that being said, let's look over here. We have 2 times 50% research bonus for armor, plus we have a 2-year ahead of time and a 50% research bonus, valid for 2 researches of armor technology. And let's take a quick look. So with armor, what I want to do is probably go down medium. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. You can actually get a 5th one, even though it's ahead of time. So I want to go with a 1-time research of light tanks, and we're not going to be touching that again until we have the ahead of time bonuses. And we have 2 of these, so we'll go. Just go ahead and go with it. We'll get rid of interwar bombers. Get rid of Weltkrieg era tank because we won't be using those. We'll just kind of divide these all up. That's probably good. I'm not getting rid of a factory because of 2 rubber. It's not focus on building a bunch of civilian factories. Is there any other place? Good. I think the more slots that there are, that means there's more. Wait, sorry, no, it's right here. Yeah, 70%. 70%. Is there any more 70%? 70 or 60%? I hope I'm not blind. There's a 60%. Yeah, we'll focus on those. Okay, that's probably good. We have no template for support equipment. That's fine. We'll be using support equipment, and we'll go ahead and press play. The February Revolution put an end to centuries of Tsarist despotism, and its achievements were on the verge of being undone. In October of 1917, the Bolsheviks, led by Vladimir Lenin, stormed the Winter Palace and seized control of Russia, declaring the world's first revolutionary socialist state. Soviet Russia. A wide front of monarchists, republicans, moderate socialists, and foreign interventionists rose up against it. The Bolshevik Revolution was stillborn. In September of 1918, Lenin was assassinated by Fanny Kaplan, a disgruntled left SR and Bolshevik. The Bolshevik cause started to disintegrate. This, combined with German supplies provided to the white movement throughout the Civil War, meant that by 1920 the revolution was successfully suppressed. In 1922, the white generals dictated a constitution for the new Russian Republic, which, albeit democratic, was riddled with issues not satisfy everyone. Hoping that he would prove to be a weak figurehead, the whites pushed forward Alexander Kerensky, the leader of the provisional government, before the October coup. As the first president of the Russian Republic, Kerensky would prove to be capable. However, he survived the 1925 Kolchak putsch and implemented new economic policy to restore economic growth, and has governed the country for the past 15 years. Lack of serious political opposition and widespread electoral manipulation have certainly helped his longevity as well. By 1936, however, President Kerensky has eroded the last of his allies in the government, and new economic policy is no longer yielding any dividends. Nationalists see him kowtow to Germans, Democrats believe that he is turning into a dictator, and socialists simply want the entire system gone. All of them sure won't believe, however, that Russia has potential to reassert its power in the world. Russian Constitution of 1922, signed in 1922 after the end of the Russian Civil War and 5 years after the February Revolution. The Constitution of the Russian Republic is a scar on the fractured white movement and saw its adoption. It defines Russia as a federal democratic republic, guarantees universal freedoms and rights to every citizen of the republic, is documented by which the country's political institutions have organized since then. In some ways, the Constitution is an updated version of the Tsar's Constitution of 1906. The upper house and the parliament and the Senate is the main example of authoritarian heritage. It is an unelected institution comprised of senior statesmen and delegates from the upper strata, such as aristocrats, university professors, and business associates. The lower house, the State Duma, is elected and holds most legislative power in the country. The presence of the unelected Senate curbs the democratic process in the country, however. The President is elected by the Senate, but many of his powers and duties are styled after the position of the Tsar in 1906 Constitution. Therefore, he yields significant executive power and appoints the Council of Ministries with the approval of both legislative houses. The President is a primary actor in the executive in executing legislative acts and represents the Republic in foreign affairs. He also has access to the infamous Article 48 of the Constitution, which allows the President to take emergency actions without the approval of the Duma. Alexander Kerensky has been fond of using his power to bypass the increasingly fractured legislature and thus pass decrees and laws. After under the guidance of the white generals, the Constitution can only call itself a protector of democracy when the articles are not used against it. New economic policy. New economic policy. The Russian Civil War left the economy of the Republic in a pitiful position. The conflict has devastated the country and left millions dead. Famine was breaking out in the Volga region, and anarchy reigned among much of the country. The government of Alexander Kerensky has done a lot of political capital and used it for a vast series of economic stimulus programs dubbed New Economic Policy. The NEP combined financial stabilization with the concessions to the progressive movement. New currency was introduced, chevrons ruble backed by the gold standard, which put an end to rampant inflation. De facto land redistribution in the countryside was recognized, and additional land reform promulgated in order to restore the efficiency of agriculture. A restored agricultural sector allowed Russia to become an exporter and use the revenue from these exports combined with considerable American and German investment to restore the industrial zones and rebuild the rail system. By 1920, despite losing access to the Don-Cuban Terran zone, Russia was one of the fastest growing economies on the planet with plenty of potential to spare. The economic miracle began to slow by 1933. The Great Depression in America depreciated investments in Russia. Agricultural efficiency stopped growing to lack of mechanization, and the gold standard was shackling finances rather than stabilizing them. In 1936, the state had entered a full-on recession. Although some hold out hope that the prosperous German market will salvage Russia, the consensus is that the new economic policy has run its course, and change in policy is needed. Should Russia recover in its economy, once again, the environment, however, untapped potential will likely turn into an industrial giant. Russia, an industrial giant. Okay. Yeah, we're missing light tanks, but that's fine. The assassination of Kerensky. Okay, overrights over the Legation Council. When the British Empire collapsed, the three great powers of the Far East, Japan, Germany, and the United States, fought over the British concessions in a war for dominance over Chinese trade and influence. When the Americans intervened to keep the peace, they created the legation treaties, enforcing their open-door policy on Germany and Japan, both of whom desired sole access to Chinese markets for their own gain. The Council for International Mandate for Chinese Concessions, colloquially called the Legation Council, is created. A seat granted to Russia because of concessions in Tianjin but they are currently occupied by Admiral Kolchak Transmor. Transmor is an obvious Japanese puppet, however, the Delegation Council opted to let delegates from both Vladivostok and Moscow represent the Russian nation. Since this situation is obviously very confusing on the ground, we are not allowed to vote on the council, but merely observe like the British. Once we in Transmor's pretension, it will likely be our rightful government. However, we shall surely have our voting rights restored. The sound of gunfire rings across the capital. Alexander Kerensky, the president of the Russian Republic, was shot and killed by an assassin while he was climbing the steps to the Senate House. His killer was shot dead by the military police before he could make an escape. His motives will forever be unknown. Regardless, the fate of Russia has been irrevocably changed. Alright, Kerensky has been hated by many, but it was only when he died did it become clear how much Russia needed him. The coalition between the cadets and socialist revolutionaries has caused been dissolved immediately. Kerensky's right-hand man, Viktor Shernov, who had usually handled the nitty-gritty of coalition building while the president acted as a public face of the party, has suddenly found his job to be all other right-wing forces in the Senate and the Duma coalesce and gather their forces. Their soon-to-be savior is Grand Duke Dmitry, who has all the material to be a fine president in their eyes. Chernov's only hope is the left opposition, the Mensheviks, and radical socialists, represented by Arkely Trezov and Alexander Shipkanov, put the rivalry aside and join forces with the hated SRs and cadets. The Democratic force plot in the shadows to Peter Wrangel, the Black Baron, and Field Marshal Levar Kornilov is immediately on their plans to seize control of the state for this exact occasion. They have no reason to play ball with the Kremlin in Moscow, and not Kerensky is gone after all. However, may be the outcome of the German crisis is bound to leave a lasting impact on Russian history. Let's see, we want Kornilov, because once he dies, that will allow us to get Savinkov. So there goes our stability. The Kornilov affair. The Kornilov's forces descending upon Moscow sparked a repeat of 1917. Trade unions and leftist organizations broke out their arms to defend Russia's democracy and constitution from a soon-to-be dictator. Kornilov chose not to retreat this time, however, and cooperating with the combat squads of paramilitary of the National Republican Party, the NRPR, took the streets to fight. After hours of barricade raising and street clashes, order was finally restored. The Duma dissolved, and the provincial military government installed, headed by the new Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Army and acting presidents, Levar Kornilov. However, he is also understands that without a coherent political program, his control of the country will politically be lost. Temporarily Prime Minister General Alexander Lembowski is a well-known supporter of Kornilov and can maintain a modicum of order, but he has awful relations with almost all Republican factions in the country. Kornilov's first choice would be to invite Boris Savinkov, the leader of the NPPR, to assume the office of Prime Minister, though he is far from being on the best terms with Savinkov. His far-right concept of national renewal sounds very appealing. On the other hand, perhaps Savinkov is too suspicious to trust, and Marshal Dinkin would help Kornilov consolidate his control over the country. We will go right ahead and we will get... Okay, we just got all our stability back, and we have... Well, I guess I thought we had him in the government. Okay, I don't know why they're over there, but... Is there any national focuses we can take yet? If I remember correctly, there's nothing we can do yet. Okay, the government has to try to recreate that first. Okay. The Kornilov-Savinkov alliance. The boogeyman of any socialist in Duma, the most powerful far-right force in the country, the National Republican Party, when started out as an anti-Bolshevik conspiracy in Moscow, the Union for the Defense of the Motherland. Its leader, Boris Savinkov, is one of the most interesting political figures in the country. A former socialist revolutionist turned nationalist politician who has evolved a political ideology based on his own extreme and somewhat esoteric beliefs, and the beliefs of his close allies such as symbolist poet Dmitry Merkavitsky. Having remained in the fringe of Russian politics in the 1920s, the NRPR in popularity in the 1930s. Its affinity for spectacle politics, populism, paramilitary violence, and irredentism, attracting many and even inspiring imitators outside of Russia. Approached by Kornilov, his old ally from back in 1917, Savinkov accepted and has dedicated the NRPR combat squads to the apparatus of the state. Another gain in stability, lose some consumer goods, but gain power gain and division recovery rate. Okay, cool. Lash autonomy declares independence. Terrible news. Autonomous region of Lash Orda has decided to use the political chaos in Russia to sever almost all the ties with Russia and declare independence. While many hotheads and general staff are demanding immediate action, ongoing chaos prevents us from responding to treachery. It seems that we must let Lash Orda be for now. Don't worry, we'll be back for you. Totalist Charter. Payment of the Brest Litovsk reparations. During the Berlin Conference in 1935, the Germans forces to repay the remaining part of the World Krieg War indemnities agreed upon in the Brest Litovsk Treaty in 1918, 1 year earlier than expected, which has put the government in a delicate situation. The current budget for 1936 is already stretched to the bare minimum. If you are paid the accursed Teutons, the cabinet seems no other alternative than to close harsh austerity measures. The present government spending will almost harshly be felt in the social services sector and many homes of it invalidated war veterans, depending on the state support. Our citizens are already dismantled. Dissatisfaction with the incumbent coalition of cadets and social services united under the even more unpopular presidency of Alexander Kerensky. It is feared that the austerity measures will bring still more extreme political groupings into the political scene. Oh God. Until 1937, a whole year. At least we have a lot of skill, and we don't have to worry about running out of that. Workers strike. Some workers in one of our cities have organized themselves and begun to strike, completely disrupting all industrial production within the city. They demand higher salaries, enforcement of labor regulations, preventing unfair treatment of the workforce. Send in the army, ignore their demands, fulfill their demands. I guess we'll lose the consumer goods factory. Yeah, we'll fulfill our demands. Ottoman Empire withdraws from Italy. Poland declares a republic. Organization of the internal police. As a symbol of Tsarist repression, the Guard Department was abolished by the provisional government on the March of 1917 and never restored. In effect, however, secret police practices in the Russian Republic never vanished and simply changed form. White forces in the Russian Civil War operated their own measures against Bolshevik subversion. Several departments were formed in the Ministry of Internal Affairs to fulfill the same purpose, such as the Third Directorate of the Ministry of Internal Offices and the Gendarmerie. Alexander Kerensky's government used these institutions with the last hesitation to prevent a second revolution. The most famous for their action was the assassination of Tambov revolutionary Alexander Antov. By mid-1935, the president was planning to reorganize the internal police and establish the Department of Protecting Order, which would bear the same name as Tsarist Okara. Though they may have passed people in our government call them to finish the reforms in this current powerful tool defending the current order. A good idea. Cool, so we can finally go ahead and go with that. Yeah, Russia's exploded. Nothing to be surprised about there. Second hits Russia. Almost 30 years ago, the Berlin stock exchange plunged to the bottomless depth, throwing Germany's economy into an unprecedented crisis. Now the shockwaves of the crash have reached Russia. German and Austrian companies have closed down or laid off their workers. The Russian ruble is losing. Sorry, the Russian ruble is losing value, and resource exports are shrinking. Okay, yeah, this is just going to keep getting worse and worse. Ivan Pavlov dies. Ivan Petrov Pavlov, a widely known Russian psychologist, died today at 86 in Petrograd. He is a Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1904 for his research on the digestive system. He is mostly known for his works on classical conditioning. The Russian president expressed his sadness and announced his laboratory would soon become a museum. Gain 1 stability. I saw, yeah, I can go ahead and go for establish the VES. Assassination of Maria Sprindov. During the meeting of the left SRs in Moscow, Maria Sprindov was assassinated by members of Sinkinov's combat squads. The list of workers for the Pope, Oswald Mosley. Right. The liquidation of such promiscuous was provoked an early and inconsequential organization rebellion against the government. The rising was easily suppressed by a concert of police and combat squads. Today, General Kornilov published a new law prohibiting the leftist SR party proscribing its leaders. The power of its leadership condemned by the scythe of the state, the socialist organizations no longer pose any threat to the Kornilov-Sankov dynarchy. Thus, to all enemies of the state, 8 stability, and the loss of 20,000 credible population. Okay, workers' demonstration. Even though technology advancement resulted in a slow but steady improvement of working condition, workers remained very vulnerable to socialist agitation. Demonstrations in cities were organized from time to time. Remains varying depending on who is putting on the strikes. Oh well. Gallows uses control in Ecuador. Some of our research is getting close to being done. This International Congress. And we'll go ahead and go with
Внимание!
Yeah, okay. So you can't be control of both. He will continue the name of his predecessors. Okay. That's fine. We had political power, we could send in the army to try to get some stability back up. That done, we'll go ahead and establish the VES. We'll gain some stability, gain some X factories in the state, and some critical population. I think this gets rid of... No, huh. What gets rid of, Black Monday? Maybe it's just time. I know some countries have just time as what gets rid of it. Basic machine tools done. I mean, we are going to be upgrading our tanks quite a bit. Let's go with dispersion. Political bombings. Another loss in stability. Looking back on it, What are my tank divisions looking like? Yeah. Collapse of the United Dutch Balkies. Okay. Wait, that's not how you pronounce it. United Baltic Duchy, that's it. That's it.
До приказа.
Go ahead and get you guys training. I don't want to use
Готов
that.
выдвигаться.
Government intervention. Political stabilization finally in place. We are prepared to enact a series of intensive reforms and aim to restore pre-crisis industrial power. Gain stability. Use consumer good factories. Production efficiency and factory output. Cool. In the countryside, with the situation under control going increasingly unstable, the peasants are becoming easy to influence, with various agitators taking advantage of the unrest. One such situation has recently taken place. Charismatic activists bidding a number of series calling for an open revolt against the regime. How should we treat this? We would definitely eliminate the agitator. I mean, we're probably going to get some negatives after this for doing that, but... First Women's Division of Death. Maria Bolshevik... I'm sorry. Maria Bochkova, colonial of the Russian army and hero of the Weltkrieg and Russian Civil War, has recently requested the government to allow the formation of the First Women Division by combining the existing women's battalions of death, which should later serve in the basis of formation of Women's Corps. Acceptance proposal will truly boost the strength of our army, give significant propaganda value, but conservative elements in our armed forces unwilling to change status quo have been taken into consideration as well. I don't know if this is something Savinkov would do. I mean, he's a national populist, so he kind of comes with, like, a certain extent of, well, and also pretty strongly traditionalist social views, right? But at the same time, he also wants to kind of tear everything down, the German Empire and stuff. And having a stronger army would help. I'm not sure if this is what he would do, but I'm going to go ahead and allow it.
Так точно. Внимание.
Okay, right. You can go ahead and go on that eastern
Готов?
I don't know if that was actually worth it or not. Okay, cool, that tank's done. Construction's done. These are ahead of time for construction, and we'll get... Do we not have motorized researched? Workers' demonstration. Oh well. Okay, Maxim Gorky dies. Russian writer Lesky Moscow Bulgarian known under his pen name Maxim Gorky died today at Moscow at 68. A fellow traveler of the Bolsheviks experienced repression of the Tsarist regime, but was quite doubtful during the October Revolution, thus avoiding reprisals after the Civil War. Rabid opponent of Kerensky, he publicly supported Bukharin, and he narrowly followed his son in death, many thinking it was sudden death could be to changing political atmosphere in Russia. I assure you 68 is an old age. Alright, what do we want to do first? Probably let's go for one that allows us to develop industry first. Kudeta in Siam? Or Siam, I don't know. I don't know which way this is technically supposed to be pronounced. But anyways, I've actually ran out of time for this episode. So please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. And I'll see you in the next one.